Welcome. Today, I want to talk about a subject that's very dear to my heart: conscious leadership. I've been thinking about doing this chat, this course, even thought about making a MasterClass around the subject for a little while. And here I am. I'm going to record this conversation and we'll see what's going to happen with it. Maybe it's going to become a course or a MasterClass, but here it is. So the idea gemmed last year, even maybe a little bit more, as I was creating conscious selling. I said, maybe I'm on a streak here to create courses or classes about consciousness and conscious whatever, because that's truly the essence of my work. Yes, I've been in business and in sales for almost 20 years, and I know a lot about business and sales, but what I do know even more is the human predicament, is how we as human work inside, because my spiritual path has been almost as long as my career path. And so it was natural for me at one point to juxtapose the two. So today, in this conversation about conscious leadership, do not expect us to go in the traditional teachings and training that you typically get around leadership. That's not the angle of this chat, and that's not where I'm coming from. I'm truly coming from a point of view of redefining leadership for what it truly is, as an interior posture that one has to have in order to lead outside. That's the essence of leadership for me. That's where it starts. So we're going to talk about that in length. And I hope that you get out of this chat with a different perspective, some nuggets also, but mainly an invitation to explore how you can take what we're going to talk about now for yourself, embody it, experience with it, connect with it, to then transpose it to the people that you are blessed to lead, whomever they are, by the way. So that's my wish for a talk. And I hope that you'll go back to this recording and inspire yourself from what we're going to discuss here today. All right, so let's jump in. I'm going to do this the old-fashioned way. I did not prepare any decks. I don't have any support materials. It is you and me having a conversation. And I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 notes. And I might peek at them to get inspired from time to time, but as I usually do with my recordings and my podcasts, I press record and I just let it rip and see where it leads us. So that's what's going to happen now. All right, so just let's take a breath. Like I said, we're going to do this one-on-one, like if we're having a chat around a coffee or tea. Let's start and let's take a breath together. Center ourselves. Who's leading? That's where I want to start. We study, we hear, we get trained, we get coached on leadership a lot in business. It appears to me that it's always about how you should go about leading. Or oftentimes, most of the time in life in general, actually, into how to do things. here's a situation, here's a problem, or here's ways that you can improve, and here are the steps. Here's what you need to do. Here's what you need to know. Check those boxes. Go about it, and here we go. That's typically how we address leadership. I want to turn this around and ask you, who's leading? And picture yourself in your families, with your spouse, at work, whether you're a manager, an executive, or just an employee. Whatever your role is, you're leading in some shape or form. Imagine that, and then ask yourself, who's leading? And the obvious answer to this, beg your pardon, would probably be, well, I am. I'm the one leading. And you'd be right. You are. Although you're also wrong. Because typically, the part of us that's leading is the one that has many, many layers of conditionings, of views, of judgments, of patterns, of habits, and all that jazz. This version, let's call it, of us that is leading our household or people at work is tainted. I'm touching my glasses here because I often use the analogy of the glasses. We put on glasses that are defined by all of those things that I've mentioned, views, opinions, judgments, behaviors, and patterns, and habits, and conditionings, and traumas, and whatnot. And we put on those glasses, and this is how we see life. This is how we interact with life. This is how we lead life. Hence, this is how we lead people, through those glasses. And for me, it is obvious that if you want to lead to the absolute best that you can with great clarity, well, you must start by cleaning those glasses. I'm not saying that people who lead through those glasses that are tainted by all of those experiences and judgments and views and whatnot are not good leaders. I'm not saying that they're not doing a great job. But it is also true that they're leading through the veil of their own views and experiences and what they've learned throughout their lives. In some cases, that's going to turn out pretty good. And in most cases, well, it's not going to be as pure as it can be. I hope you get that. I've tried to boil it down to a very simple way to frame it and explain it. And that's my experience. That's what I've seen with people that I've coached and mentored. And that's what I've seen with myself and others that I'm observing. Once you start cleaning those glasses, your leadership will, by definition, change. It has to be. You're going to be leading differently once you've cleaned those glasses, which in my own language means you've cleansed yourself. You've healed yourself, you've freed yourself, you've liberated yourself. I'm putting words here so that you might resonate with what I'm sharing, but in order to be leading so beautifully, one must go through this cleansing, this inner journey of seeing how we go about life and interacting with life, and how that impacts my leadership. It's really that simple. And that's the starting point. For me, that's the starting point. Who's leading? You got to recognize that this part of me that is not completely whole is the one leading. Not saying it's bad or good, it's just stating the facts. And our intention as human beings is to be as best as we can, is to be as good as we can, is to be great. We are looking for this. And so you must start there. So for me, it's a big shift in how we typically approach how we should go about leadership. Instead of going for the how-tos and the books and the techniques and the trainings and coaching and whatnot, turn that around and go inside and go see how situations that you've lived, that you've experienced, how you came to interact with them and why. So shift from the how to the why. This is the most important shift that we need to do in our day and age. We're so much focused on how to do things, how to have the quick fix, how to have the tips, and how to go about things so that we get to our end goal or the result that we want to have. We're hyper focusing on how to do things and get to the end result or the objective that we have, that we forget to ask why. Why am I like this? Why am I interacting with life like this? Why am I leading this way? What's motivating me to show up in one shape or form? And for that, well, you got to slow down. You got to stop for a second and look inside and see your true colors. And that's hard. That's hard for most people to do because it's scary, I suppose we can call it. It's scary to look inside and see ourselves for what we truly are. Well, let me take a big shortcut here and reassure you that this journey might be scary, but it's not scary to see who you truly are, because who you truly are is absolutely beautiful and gorgeous. But we've learned and experienced and tainted our views and mold ourselves into what we are today, which is sometimes hard to look at because we don't quite like this picture of ourselves. So we're trying to somehow have the ego to fall during this process. We're lifting the veil of the ego to see who we truly are. But that veil has many layers. And we're going to have to come to the realization or conclusion that, yeah, we might be a little bit of a mess. And hence why I'm reacting, I'm acting like this, I'm leading this way, because I am prompted by my own experiences that I've kept inside and that are dictating how I should go about living my life and leading people and myself. That's who's leading. And I'll invite you to visit a few podcasts that we recorded in the past to go deeper in this. But let's do the quick journey here of how we came to have those glasses on and to lead the way we're leading our lives and people. We go through experiences in life, good and not so good. We have this mind that is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, it sent people to the moon. It's absolutely phenomenal what we created, how we can invent, create, uh, come to, you know, discoveries and whatnot. The mind is just grandiose. It's fabulous. But it can also be our worst own enemy. We can create many beautiful things with our mind, and we can dismantle many things with our mind and screw ourselves up, literally, if I may use the word. And we also have a heart. Our heart emotes emotions. That's its job. I was saying once in a podcast, a toaster make toast. A mind creates thoughts. A toaster make toast. A heart creates emotions. They're both like appliances that do their own thing in the universe, right? This microphone is picking up my voice and recording it, and then you're able to hear it. Well, thank you, microphone. That's your job. That's what you're made for. And well, this mind is going to create thoughts. That's what it does. I don't even have to ask for it. It's just going to do it on its own. That's how beautiful and crazy it is. And the heart does the same thing. I don't have to ask my heart to create emotion. It will do that on its own. Sometimes it's beautiful. Sometimes it's not as beautiful. So that's the second big block, right? So let's start from the beginning. We go through experiences in life. Childhood, young adults, whatever. We go through experiences. Now, what we do with those experiences inside with our mind and our heart is completely up to us. Where the pitfall is where those experiences come in. We don't let them go out. We keep them inside. We bottle them up, and we start to play with them with our mind and our heart. And typically that becomes a very vicious cycle. We could make it into a virtuous one by letting it go and learning from it and using them for our sake and the sake of people around us. But instead of doing that, no, we push it down, we bottle it inside, play with it with the ends of our mind, by having many judgments and thoughts and opinions about that. And we become our worst own enemy. And in the meanwhile, well, the heart kicks in, because the heart and the mind, they work together most of the time. And then they, throw the ball at each other. And that's just a downward, vicious spiral that we cultivate until it settles down. But we still kept it inside. So the next time that something comes up that wakes up what we kept inside from that previous experience, so we could be something that we hear, something that we see, something that we smell. We pick up things with our senses. So any of our senses can pick up things that are happening in our life, and that's going to remind us of what we bottled up down inside. And then we wake it up again and we start to play again with it and do the same old thing. It's the same old pattern that continues. And that's our predicament. That's how we're suffering. That's how we're cultivating anger, sadness, stress, anxiety, name it. All fear-based behaviors and emotions and thoughts are cultivated and brought to life by this pattern that I just explained to you. And this is how we see, with our glasses, life, tainted with all of those layers and all of those experiences and things that we did, such as playing with the bad stuff with our mind and our heart and blah, 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 blah. That's how we see life. That's how we see how we should go about certain situations and people. Hence, this is how we're leading. So leadership is much bigger than an act of, leadership is much bigger than a managerial act or a work-related act, as you can see. It is the essence of our day-to-day living. You wake up and you lead yourself into the day somehow. You have to make moves, decisions. You got to talk to people. You got to interact with life, and you're leading yourself into it. And typically, when you get to work, well, by definition, you're going to lead the same way that you've learned to lead your own life. You cannot disconnect the two, right? You cannot tell me that you're leading your teams, your family, you're leading people differently than how you're leading yourself. Leadership is an internal movement that is then being expressed externally. It has to go through yourself before it reaches other people. So again, who's leading? Well, I think we've dressed up a pretty nice portrait of who is the leader, after all. Bearing this in mind, now that we understand who's truly leading, I believe that you can all see the importance of making sure that it is clean inside, so to speak, so that we might get to lead our lives and people with as much love and clarity as we can. And hence, for me, leadership has to be about love. When people ask me, what's leadership for you? I said, leadership is about love. That's what it is. It has to be. How can it be any different? Let's stop trying to make it into some sort of academic description or definition of what leadership is. Well, yes, we can certainly do that. But if we go back to its essence, to its root, leadership is an act of love. You're leading others. Who's leading others? You are. Who's leading you? The one inside. And that one inside is typically tainted with a lot of those experiences and patterns and conditionings that we were talking about. And if you do not love yourself enough to make it clean inside, to have those views and judgments and opinions and blockages and all of those bad experiences out of yourself, so that you are clean, happy, joyful, loving, and that's how you lead your life, hence how you lead people, then how can leadership not be about love? It doesn't make any sense for me. So leadership is about love. A friend of mine once was having a conversation with, we were having a conversation, beg your pardon, and he said, Max, people suffer from workaholism. I said, yeah, I know that, of course. And then he said, you and I, we also suffer from another type of addiction. I said, really, what's that? He said, wortholism. He just coined that term. This guy is a genius to make up words. I'm talking about it, I have chills. Yeah, cheers to you, Dale, my dear friend. That's stuck with me forever. Wortholism. we have this addiction of not finding worth in ourselves. We lack worth in ourselves. And if you don't have worth for yourself or you're lacking it, you're not loving yourself enough. So love is, in my humble views and experience, the magical ingredient for leadership. And yes, there's a vector to that love that has to do with the others that we're leading. But we're not going to talk about much of that today, because that's not where it starts. It always starts within. It's always an inside game, always. And leadership is no different than that. If you want to lead others to the best of your abilities, well, you have to let go a bunch of ability first, because the main ability that we develop for ourselves is the one that has to do with all of the bad stuff we kept inside and how we see the life and the world. So start by cleaning that, coming to peace with you, giving yourself the love that you deserve, finding the worth that you are, having the courage to do that for yourself. By the way, courage, from its Latin root, as heart in there, literally. So, yeah, I mean, love is this magical ingredient here. And you got to start within. So leadership is an act of love that starts within and then gets expressed externally. That doesn't mean that we don't have to make hard decisions sometimes, and that we don't have to make difficult moves. I mean, I'm thinking about somebody that I fired one day. I was hard. How can that be loving? Well, it can be loving in the way you go about it. And even though the person that got fired, I fired many people in my life, but thinking about one or two right now, one that got fired did something morally unacceptable. Well, the process of letting that person go could still be done with a lot of love. And the reason why I was able to do that is because I was not guided by my own blockages or my own, excuse my French, my own shit. If you go about making a decision or a choice or interacting with someone at any level based on what's being ignite within you as far as your own views and opinions and judgments and blockages and that little you, when where's the place for love in that exercise? The leadership. I said leadership equal big heart. Yeah, leadership is about love for all of those reasons. And I hope you see it and you can connect with that, because it's a magical and crucial ingredient to change your leadership. And before you can change it externally and how people receive it and go about it, you're going to have to explore what's going on inside. And if you tell me, well, I don't know what's going on inside, Max, well, that's not true. You're just not paying attention. But as soon as you pay attention and you investigate how you go about things, you're going to find out what's really going on. If you're being honest and you look honestly, carefully, you're going to see that, oh yeah, I said that, or I went about this situation that way because I could feel that inside. Oh, I could hear this little voice inside telling me something. And then you work with that. That's your gateway to starting the process of bringing love within and transforming your own leadership. I'm not going to give you a 10-step program. I'm not going to give you any trick or shortcut. There is none. There is none. It's a very individual and idiosyncratic process that you're going to have to go through as a leader of your own life and perhaps other people. It's probably why you're listening to this. You're probably leading people, hence why you were compelled to listen to me on conscious leadership. So, yeah, if you're in disposition of leading others, your daily interactions are going to be the gateway to slowing down, turning that around, going inside, and seeing your true colors and seeing how you go about situations and people's circumstances and how you dance with that, how you play with it. And if you look honestly and carefully and you investigate, you're going to be able to say, oh, yeah, okay, I said that because of this, or I reacted that way because I had this rush inside of anger or this need of wanting to control or whatever that is for you. You're going to find out. You're going to know. And that's your gateway. You work with that. You're going to have to be patient. I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to have to be patient on that road and on that journey. And by the way, I'm going to stretch it even a little bit here for you out there who are hardcore corporate leaders, very A-type. You're probably not listening to me if you're like that, but maybe you are. So let's stretch it here. The same way you're going to go about it in your work can be a beautiful mirror and reflection of how you're going to go about it for your own personal life. Actually, there's no difference between the two. That's it. There's no difference. There's no difference between business and life. There's only life. How you go about your business is how you go about life. How you go about life is how you go about your business. It's the same thing. Life. There's only life. And the glasses that you wear and how dirty they might be is how you're going to go about it. And so you can start by cleaning them, but at one point you're going to have to remove them. And that's the process. That's the process. You're going to have to turn within, use what you're being given every day, and work with it patiently and with a lot of love. It requires compassion. There's another ingredient to that. I think patience, compassion are crucial. And you're going to have to be very, very determined. Your intention will have to be set on that pole star that you're going to fix for yourself. For me, it's, I want to be free. I want to be clean and free and so happy inside that whatever comes up, whatever comes in, I can deal with it with breeze. Not saying it's not going to, my mind is not going to have to say something about it. Not saying that my heart is not going to emote emotion about it, but I don't have to pay attention to it. I can still remind myself that these two are not leading. I am. There's only one captain at the helm, and that's me. Actually, I made a note of that. Remain at the helm. Yeah. Well, we're right there. Let's talk about it. Remaining at the helm of leading your own boat. That's a great challenge for many of us. And it is so because what you because the pull is very powerful. Let's put it this way. So again, right? We go through those situations, those circumstances, and we interact with people in life with the veil of our own problems and our ego or the analogy of the glasses. Now, once we go through that event, that situation, that experience, it comes in, and then remaining at the Helm is very difficult because we have a pull of those. It's the pull of the ego. Those views, those opinions, those judgments, those patterns, those habits, those conditionings, those traumas, they're still active. They're living on inside. And we've hold on to them for dear life because they probably made up our life, and we identify with them, and we cultivated them throughout the years. Otherwise they wouldn't be there. So you cultivated them. Sorry to break it to you like that, but yes, you are responsible for that. So you kept all of that alive inside, and when something comes up, you're being pulled down to those views and opinions and judgments and conditionings, and the pull of the ego is so strong that you don't remain at the helm. You just go down with the flow of the ego, and you're no longer the one navigating, but your ego is. So remaining at the helm is, for me, what I often say: you got to keep the seat of your consciousness. You're going to deal with certain people in life, at work, at home, and something is going to come up. Something is going to happen. And in a matter of seconds, it goes on so fast. It's so quick. You can get pulled down by whatever your mind has to say about it, or whatever your heart has to say about it, or has to emote about it. And if you don't pay attention very closely, if you're not watchful, if you don't remain at the helm at this moment, you're going to be pulled down in those vicious cycles. You're going to be pulled down, and then that's those dirty glasses that are seeing what it is and leading the way from that point on. That's going to require a lot of will for you to see things for what they are, and do not be pulled down by the forces of your ego. Your consciousness has a quality. Your consciousness has a quality to pay attention to what you give power to. If I give power to what my mind has to say about what this person did, and it sparks something within that brings me in great anger for whatever reason, if I let myself go down with this bull and go with it, my consciousness will pay attention to that. That's where it goes. And being always on the watch. That's another note. Always keep watch. Yeah. Keep watch. Like I remember in my early days of walking my spiritual path, or at that point I used to call it, I want to be a better version of myself. I want to grow, personal development, all the same thing. But back then I called it like that. I was reading a lot of Stoics, and the Stoics were great philosophers that had beautiful wisdom. Even worked with one of the top Stoics writers and scholars and psychotherapists today, Donald Robertson. Donald and I worked one-on-one for more than 2 years. He helped me a great deal. I'm very grateful for him, and I love him very much. He was like a father figure. He was beautiful. Thank you, Donald. So The Stoics had this expression about our inner citadel. For them, it was a way to express visually that within ourselves, we do have a citadel. And it is when we're able to climb at the top of that citadel and keep watch and make sure to address, play, go about anything that's going on inside from that view above, that we are truly able to stay and remain in our equanimity, to do things with clarity. Same thing. The Stoics were back then expressing what yogis express before them and what we're talking about now. Remaining at the helm and keeping watch of your own inner citadel is the switch that changes everything. Turn the switch on, it's bright light. Turn the switch off, it's dark. Well, same thing within. If something comes in, situation, people, circumstances at work, and it sparks something within, and I go with that pull, I just turn the switch off. It's black. On the other end, if something happens, I feel a pull, I sense something, I see my mind starting to talk or kick in, and then I say, oh, hold on. Putting the switch on, keeping the light on. Well, at that point, you're being seated in the seat of your consciousness. You're keeping watch. You're at the top of that inner citadel. And then you can go about doing whatever you need to do if there's something to do from that state, from that place. Now that's leading. That's leadership. Doesn't get more pure than that. You're going to do the best that you can. And that's fine, by the way, right? Don't start to criticize yourself afterwards and say, oh, and throw rocks at yourself. I should have done this and I should have done that. No. If you remain centered, you didn't go with the pull of your ego and all of those things that you got going on inside. Let's call them stuff. You didn't go with your stuff that you have inside. And you tried to do the best that you could with the moment in front of you, with all the love and the clarity and the compassion that you have, that you can show up with at this moment and on. That's perfect. You did your best, and you cannot ask for more. That's enough. Doing your best, keeping watch inside your own citadel is the best that you can do. And that's fine. You can also learn from it, yes. But at this point, that's perfect, and that's enough. Great. So we're covering we're covering beautiful stuff here. We're talking deep leadership right now. I just love this. Let me pick up my notes. Okay. Two more things I want to touch on. We talked about who's leading. We talked about leadership being about love and an act of love. We also went in depth in how come am I leading my life and leading people the way I am, right? So I hope you have a good understanding of how am I built inside, how did that came about, and how do I go about living my life and leading my life and people with all of that baggage. We then shifted to always keeping watch and remaining at the helm of your leadership boat. I think we're slowly moving towards the end of our conversation where I want to share with you that, or I want to remind you that we're all leaders. Whatever your role, whatever you do in life, your job, your circumstances, it doesn't change a thing for me. You might be a CEO making multi-million dollar a year, and you might be like me, a coach, or you might be like whomever you are, professional, blue collar, white collar, parent, not parent, grandpa, grandma. It doesn't matter. You're all leaders. You are all leading in some shape or form. Something, maybe someone, people, but most definitely, you're leading yourself. And how can you expect to lead others as best as you could possibly can if you haven't learned to lead yourself? That's where the journey starts. That's where the journey starts. So that's the invitation I'm setting you to start working on that inner journey, that inner transformation, so that you can lead yourself and then others to the best that you could possibly do and can. And when you do that, you soon realize that, well, it's not about you, really. You see, at work or in your home or at any given moment, life presents to you situations and people and circumstances. It's just the way it is. It's inevitable. That's life. Life being life, it's a happening place. Things are going to happen, and you're going to be presented with situation, people, and circumstances, and you're going to have to face that. If you're in a position that you need to lead others, well, also much the case. You're soon going to realize, doing this whole journey and process that we talked about today, that at the end of the day, it's not about you. Now, why do I say that? Well, in if you read some Hindu text, ancient text, the notion of dharma is going to come up. Now, dharma is a way too complicated word to express in English. There's no one word translation, really. That's what I'm trying to say. It's really a whole of a bunch of words that can render justice to what dharma is. But let me put it in those words for you in the context of what we're sharing now. At work, at home, life is going to happen, and you're going to be presented with a situation, people, and circumstances that you have to engage with. That's your dharma. Whatever that is. Engaging in what life is offering you at any given moment is the dharma. People often talk about dharma in the context of their calling or their purpose in life and their job specifically. No. You got that wrong. You can extend it there if you want, maybe. But that's a whole other conversation. The true essence of dharma is always, you never have to look for it. It's always unfolding. It's always right in front of you. What life is asking me to do at this moment is everyone's dharma. And it's all different for everybody and for every one of us. Once you decide and see it for what it is, you're left with two options. It's either I fight it and I go inside and play with my stuff and try to manipulate and control and get my way and do whatever I fancy to do to have what I want, and control and manipulate the situation of the person or what life is presenting me with. Or, as a great yogi would do, you honor it. You honor and you respect what you've been given. Sorry. Let me grab a sip of water here. Let me say this. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine a couple of years ago. And beautiful conversation. He's also, he's a corporate man, executive. That's a second career, actually. He has a wonderful story. That's a second career for him. Before that, he used to be a chief of staff for a pope, or not a pope, for a cardinal. Was a priest at the beginning, then become a chief of staff for a cardinal. So a religious man, a man of faith, a man of spirituality now, I'd say, and then went into a corporate career, which is quite interesting, and he did wonderful. We were having a conversation about different situations in life and challenges, and it wasn't about him or me. It was just him and I kicking the can, like two buddies would do, with a great conversation. And I remember that I said something to him that I believe he, when you have those moments, I believe that was one for him. Maybe for me, because I don't know where it came from. But I said, when you're dealing with life situations, obstacles, difficulties, accepting is not enough. As a leader, I think this is very important to understand. You're going to be presented with people and situations and circumstances that society and courses and trainings and coaching and whatnot are inviting you to accept. That's a big topic, right? People talk about acceptance. I don't see it that way anymore. I can't see it like that anymore. Because at one point you see that for yourself when you sit with it and you go to the depth of your being and you sit with something that you need to accept, you realize that there's still some dust of resistance there. Right? If you need to accept something, or if you accept something, it's by definition that you accepted something that still you weren't completely in agreement with. And if that doesn't ring a bell to you, well, try to revisit situations that you've accepted and see what that sparks inside. Emotionally, mentally, typically there's a residue of resistance there with accepting. But when you honor and respect what is being given to you at any moment, and that's true in a leadership position too, when you honor and respect it, you then have no choice to welcome it fully. It's no more something that you are trying to control or manipulate, or yet you need to cope with or accept or whatnot. It just comes in, you embody it, you love it, you almost make love with it, and then you send it back. Because it's not about you. You're being given a task to do at any moment. And that's your dharma. And honoring and accepting it and loving it, and then doing what you need to do for the sake of honoring and respecting your dharma, and the people you serve. Well, I think we just closed the loop on leadership right there. That's what it is. It's going to require an internal movement of love and respect and honor, an act of service that is tainted by that same intention to serve and love and help and do the best thing that you can for the sake of the situation that you're being given. And then you offer it and you give it back. And that's it. That's all you can do. So boy, did we travel today. Wow. I always wanted to record that podcast about leadership. And by now, I'm pretty sure we're closing in on 45 minutes, maybe 50, an hour. I'm not sure. So that's a long podcast. Could be a mini masterclass after all. I hope it was helpful. I hope it brought some nuggets and mostly perspective to you. And I really wish that you take it all in and start somewhere with all that. Conscious leadership on the output will serve people, businesses, humanity, situations. But on the input, it is going to require an internal cleanse, an internal injection of a lot of love. And I hope that's what I'm going to spark with you today, starting now, after this podcast. All right. Well, sending you love. Happy conscious leadership. And please don't forget that it is all about love. It's all about love. Thank you. Cheers.